name is David Holden. I'm a grateful recovering addict.
My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. My lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore. Safe to shore. Safe to shore. Safe to shore.
I grew up in a household with my parents being addicts, and I went to numerous schools for elementary and middle school. I lived in Oregon, Montana, Idaho, California, and Washington. I was on my own when I was 15, and I lived in Priest River, and that's when my addiction started. I started drinking a lot of alcohol and smoking weed. I started taking pain medications, and I continued drinking. And I had custody of my little brother for almost a year, and soon after that I started doing pills, and I lost my house and lost my job, everything that I had had. And for the next few years I started using harder drugs, heroin and meth, and I just was down in a dark place. I was homeless. I lived in a park for a while, or abandoned houses. And so I was in and out of jail for the next couple of years, and I couldn't find the right way to go. I just kept doing the same thing over and over. When I got out of jail, I'd continue using, and went through a few bad relationships, and finally I got my sixth felony, and I did 2 months in Stevens County, and I decided that it's about time to give my life to the Lord. And once I made the decision to give my life to the Lord, I knew that I was in the right place, even though I was in jail. And I was laying in my bunk, and I looked up at this table, and there was scripture written all over the bottom, and it was one of the first promises that I had received from the Lord. It was Jeremiah 17:10, I believe, and it said, "For I will heal your wounds and restore your health." And that was the first promise that I had believed. And so I was looking at a 17 to 22 month sentence in prison, and I was praying for treatment, and praying, and I finally went to court, and that was the first deal that they gave me, was residential dose of. So I had to go to ABHS for 3 months, and somewhere there was a mistake, and they let me out for a day, and so I relapsed on meth, and but I knew that I had to walk through those doors, because that was the door that was being opened for me, and I knew that that's where the beginning of my road was gonna start. So I turned myself into treatment, and I got into my Bible every day, and then I started to go to the church service there, and I met Pastor Danny and Pastor Nick and Brian, and I started listening to the message that they had, and hearing about the congregation, how they're mostly recovering addicts, and I knew that was the place for me to be. And so I was so excited about going to this service, and I called my grandma, and she had been trying to get me to go to church for months before I went to jail, but I was too busy with the things that I was doing. And I was talking to her, and I said, "Grandma, what was that church that you were telling me about? Because there's this awesome church here, and they're a bunch of recovering addicts." And she couldn't remember the name, but she said it was with Pastor Danny Green. And so I knew right then that the Lord was calling me to this church, and He was opening the door to a new life. And since I've been in the Roar House and have been following the path that Jesus gave me, He's restored my health. He has healed my broken heart, my wounds. He's given me confidence in myself. I have a good job. You know, I'm the leader of the Dakota House, and I have a family that I can call on if I ever find trouble, and He's given me a life far more greater than I could ever have imagined. I don't know what He has in store for me at this point, but I do know that it's going to be good. And I am just extremely thankful for the church and for the Roar House and for everything that God has done in my life.